Welcome to Retail Retold, the stories behind how that store landed in your neighborhood. I'm Chris Ressa, in conversation with the people and stories shaping retail and real estate. Brought to you by DLC.
All right. Welcome to Retail Retold, everyone. I am excited today as I am joined by Dannon Shiff. He is the Senior Vice President of Real Estate for Dave's Hot Chicken, an exciting restaurant brand that is growing across the nation. Really looking forward to him sharing his insights on what's going on out there. Welcome to the show, Dannon.
Thanks for having me, Chris. Appreciate it.
Your pleasure's mine. Dannon, tell us a little bit about who you are, how you got to where you are, and what you're up to these days.
Yeah, as you said, I'm Senior Vice President of Real Estate for Dave's Hot Chicken. We are a 28-unit, fast casual, Nashville-style hot chicken tender restaurant. So if that doesn't make your mouth water just by saying it, I don't know what will. I'm a retail restaurant leasing junkie. I've been doing this since 2005. I started my career with Noodles and Company back in Boulder, Colorado. And then moved on to Buffalo Wild Wings, where I spent 6.5 years helping grow that brand across the country. And then, went to learn and went to the dark side, I guess, as some people would call it, went to the landlord side and spent 3.5 great years at Macerich doing food and beverage leasing in a mall environment, and kind of took the dive to learn more. And that's actually where I got introduced to Dave's Hot Chicken. Where we first met, I had a spot and got introduced to this amazing brand and ultimately leased them space, which led to where I'm at today, which has helped grow this brand and this concept across the country.
I have to ask, how insightful was it going to the dark side and seeing how pro formas were run on the landlord side and going, oh, or did you have any of those like aha moments, like going from the buyer to seller side?
It really helped, especially with economics and with internal underwriting, understand how a landlord sees a deal relative to how a tenant sees a P&L, and how occupancy and construction allowances and construction costs weigh on both sides of the transaction so that you can pull the different levers. And I actually think, going to the landlord side, I could talk tenant and help them understand, well, these are the challenges of operating in California. The margins are so thin, the labor is so high, it's a challenge. Versus now being able to say, okay, what if we changed the terms, and what if we, took dollars from one pile and moved them to the other, or thought differently about the rent economics or the construction allowances or the timing, such that, the landlord can get the deal, approved by their investment committee, and the tenant, or, on our end, our franchisees, have a deal that they can feel comfortable with, opening a restaurant in today's environment.
We'll get back to today's environment, but first, I want to bring you to the hot seat. We call this Clear the Air.
All right.
And I've got 3 questions for you. Are you ready?
I am. Here we go.
All right. Question 1. What is one skill you don't possess but wish you did?
I cannot play a musical instrument for the life of me, other than drumming on my legs or on a table. That's about as good as it gets. But I wish I could play the guitar or piano or something that was a little bit more challenging and musically inclined.
Yeah, same. I have such an appreciation for people who like can pick up an instrument, and we've all like known somebody who can play like the guitar, the piano, the cello. They can do like everything, and I literally can't even whistle. So there's that. Question 2. What is one thing most people agree with, but you do not?
I grew up in Minnesota. In Minnesota, it is duck, duck, gray duck. And the rest of the country, it is duck, duck, goose.
Huh.
But it is duck, duck, gray duck. It will always be duck, duck, gray duck. And, forever, there is no such thing as duck, duck, goose.
I never heard of duck, duck, gray duck. I'm like tempted to Google this right now. Duck, duck, gray duck. You didn't make this up. This is a real
No,
thing.
no, it is a real game. It is the real version of what some people would incorrectly call duck, duck, goose.
Wow, fascinating. That's why I love this podcast. I'm always learning new things. Okay, last question. When is the last time you tried something for the first time?
So I really had to think about this one. We were out at a restaurant opening, and we went out after the opening a couple months ago, and it's actually the first time I've ever been to a karaoke bar. You had your own little room and your booth, and it was me and some coworkers singing karaoke, and we had a blast. But I can honestly say that was the first time I've ever been to a karaoke bar.
Wow. I like karaoke bars. They're pretty fun.
Yeah,
They're pretty fun. All right. Well, thank you for giving us a little more insight on who you are.
sure.
Let's pivot a little bit. I'd love for you to tell us a story about a Dave's Hot Chicken that opened. Where are we going?
We are going to Lakewood, California, which is South Los Angeles near Long Beach. Um, the year is 2019, and the background on Dave's Hot Chicken is, these are three elementary school friends that had a love for fried chicken, a love for the restaurants. Dave, who become the brand is named after Dave's Hot Chicken, is a culinary, he's culinary institute trained chef. He was kind of known as the spice nerd, going through culinary school. He and Armin and Tommy uh, rolled up their life savings of less than $1,000 and a portable fryer and popped up in a parking lot in East Hollywood in 2017.
Oh my God.
And the head editor at Eater LA got wind of it and came down and on, I think it was night 3 or night 4, and then wrote the article that the East Hollywood late night chicken pop up will blow your mind. And from there, it expanded. So I met these guys in 2019. They had 2 restaurants at the time, and it was introduced to them actually by a broker who was calling to tell me that 2 deals that we were working on with another one of his clients were dead. They weren't moving forward. But hey, I got this other this new client that I think you should go check out. So I went to the original location on Western Avenue, and at that time, the lines were about 45 minutes long. People standing outside waiting in line for their Nashville style hot chicken tenders. And as soon as I had it, I knew this was a tenant that I had to have in a center I was leasing in Lakewood. So we had a fast food chain on an expiring lease. It was coming up. And I said, I know you don't have any drive-throughs. I know you don't have any locations outside of these 2 in Hollywood, but come on down to Lakewood of all places. And they came down and actually fell in love with the spot. It's on a hard corner, highly present, visible location. And in September of 19, we got a deal done, and it took a while because then we hit COVID. So this is actually one of those, good stories that in the middle of COVID ends well. It took a while to negotiate, but ultimately in June of 2020, we signed the lease. Not without hiccups, not without starts and stops, and in that environment, but it was able to bring this new, fresh, emerging brand to a center that we were just trying to do something fun with. And the restaurant turned out phenomenal.
Wow. I have a bunch of questions. So
Let's go. What
all
do you
right.
got?
So let's go back to the beginning. You mentioned there
Right.
was a 45-minute line. Did you wait in that line?
I waited in that line. I wanted that experience just like every other, guest and customer had of waiting in line to order and then waiting for the food to come out. That was the experience. That was, people, there was a camaraderie to it of, hey, how'd you hear about this? Where did you come from? How long you been waiting? And everybody kind of had that shared bond and shared excitement about the food.
Wow. I think that's a great lesson just in general business. If you're doing business with someone to actually experience the brand, You clearly did that before you actually went into business with them. That's just very smart.
I think it's one of those things when you're leasing space, you can just do a deal, but unless you really know both on the tenant side or the landlord side what you're leasing, and having been there and visited it and experienced it, it's really hard to sell to somebody, whether it's an executive committee on the tenant side or on the investment side from the landlord perspective. Hey, I think this is what the company should be putting their money into. So that visit and that experience and sitting down and understanding what you're doing, I think is something that a lot of people take for granted.
Totally agree. And I'm glad you didn't. The the deal got signed in June of 2020. This is one of the most trying times in American history. Not only that, it was signed in California, which was a tougher state for restaurants still working their way out of that. How what was the mindset of the brand Dave's Hot Chicken in signing that lease? How did they get comfortable, or how did you get comfortable having them sign up for that in that time period? Because I know that was a very trying time, especially in California.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit about the brand itself. As a fast casual brand, especially out here in California, the ability to pivot from in-person dining to go, takeaway, third party online ordering, was something that a lot of brands, did successfully, and Dave's is one of them. Where in a very short period of time, was able to turn on digital channels that they might not have been, they weren't using at the time. And so I think they had the foresight to understand where the business was going with the restaurants that they had and the deals in the pipeline, that there was going to be a way through this. It had a drive through. So there was the comfort, given, how drive through sales were increasing in the middle of the pandemic, that there was going to be an ability to serve the guests, an ability to drive sales in this location, given that the dining rooms were closed.
That makes sense. And if my math is right, was that restaurant number 3 for them?
It was signed very early on. It only opened about 4 weeks ago.
Oh,
So
wow.
this deal actually took 2 years. I went back and looked at my files on opening day, and from LOI number one to opening was nearly 2 years. A lot of it was due to construction, permitting, approvals, and less actually on the deal side to get to a signed lease, given everything that was going on in 9 months, was probably a pretty short amount of time.
Yeah, for sure. When you say the permits and construction, was this like labor shortages, municipalities being closed, supply chain issues?
It was a little bit of both. So this particular location sits on a hard corner, and in the vicinity there are a few other fast food restaurants with drive-throughs. There's a coffee player with a drive-through. All of them back out onto the main street that sits right in front of this restaurant. So the city even weighed in and said, "Yes, your drive-through meets code, but if you want, another approval, we have to redo the drive-through." So we had to engineer a drive-through solution, which took a little bit of time in the lease process to figure out, okay, how can we reconfigure the parking lot and the drive-through to go from what would meet code at, I think it was 5 cars in the stack, to now I think it's like a 12 or a 13 car stack. And then you had to go through, DOT and civil engineering and, moving electrical boxes and sidewalks. It
Do
just
you
turned into a bigger project
well,
than we all anticipated.
so you now I don't know at that point, I know you had your developer hat on, but all those things I know from my experience add a lot of cost to deals.
I would say that it did. The tenant did come back. We had to Dave's. We had to work on the construction costs. Everybody had to share. And looking back on it now from the other side, I think it's a win-win for everybody,
Right.
because the shopping center has a really great tenant, and a fresh brand and offering. And the tenant got, I think, a great use, and a better flow to the drive-through. It actually really worked out well. I was there today before our call, and it really came out nice.
Wow. That was signed. So when it was signed, it was one of the first few deals. It just opened,
Yeah.
but that was in June of 2020. In June of 2020, you all had like a couple of restaurants. And did I hear right? You now have 28?
Yeah. So at the beginning of 2021, so we had 7 restaurants. We year to date have opened 21. We still have probably somewhere in the range of 10 to 12 restaurants left to go this year to open. Um, but a lot of our, outside of Los Angeles, we're growing in a franchise model. So it gives us a different ability to grow quickly by leveraging our franchise partners in other markets, and the ability to grow where a lot of brands what might grow 1 or 2 new markets a year. We've added 5 states, and we now have restaurants in Toronto this year. So we've been able to grow quickly across the country through our franchising model.
Wow. So typically getting the ability to franchises and getting all the licensing that takes some time. Was this getting started pre-pandemic?
Yeah, we hired, our executive team comes from a franchising background. Our CEO, Bill Phelps, is one of the co-founders of Wetzel's Pretzels and has invested in other franchise concepts. And so the franchising model is very well understood within our company. But in late 2019, brought on our VP of franchise sales, and actually, a lot of our growth came through the pandemic. So we were set up to grow via franchising until the pandemic hit. And actually, a lot of that has happened in the last 18 months.
Wow. So cool. The how amazing is it to see you were on the other side of the table, like in the beginning of 2020, making this deal with Dave's Hot Chicken, and now you're working for Dave's Hot Chicken. Is that like surreal for you?
This was a special transaction to be able to see it from the other side now and to be able to experience it, from beginning to end. And really not a lot of deal makers on either side, you know, get that experience, let alone in some cases getting to see deals to the end, especially given how long restaurants take. But this one was fun because now I can see where it started, where the vision was of approaching Dave's in 2019 to, seeing our franchisee operating the restaurant, being there opening weekend, and just kind of seeing it all happen, but from the other side now. And now it's part of the brand that, I'm passionate about. And it's just so exciting.
Yeah, it really is. Do you guys have in your head how many locations maybe Dave's could be?
We're growing. Yeah, I think there's a lot. There's a huge potential runway for this concept. I think chicken is such a flexible player in the culinary space that there's a lot of different opportunities. But Dave's is something special. We offer one product. It's a chicken tender. We serve it 2 ways with 7 different levels of spice. That there's something for everybody on the menu via our chicken. And so it's from somebody who doesn't like spice or somebody who wants to try our Reaper. There's kind of an adventure in coming to Dave's, but the quality of the product is you know outstanding.
Is there a secret menu yet?
Uh, it's like the 11 herbs and spices. If I told you about it, then it wouldn't be secret.
Oh, too funny. The You guys have grown fast and gotten a lot of franchisees. I imagine. How big are these?
We're fast casual, so we're somewhere between 2,000, 2,700 square feet. Um,
So the AUVs must be pretty strong to be getting this type of interest from franchisees.
we're really excited about how the brand has been received. We don't state in item 19 on our FDD, so I can't talk too much about that, but we're really excited about how we've been received, both the restaurants that we have in Southern California, and now as we've grown outside, to Oregon and Colorado and Texas and Illinois and Nevada. We're really excited just how the brand has been received as we continue to grow.
Let me so last thing I would touch on, I always find that you've been in the restaurant leasing space for a while, restaurant real estate. Tell me a little bit about, now that you're growing as a franchisee, tell me a little bit about what the real estate looks like, what the real estate function looks like for you, because it's different from franchisor to franchisor. Some people do everything. Some people are just approving sites. Some people are going out and site selecting. Well, how do you envision you shaping this department in the future?
Yeah, we have phenomenal franchisees. Some of them come from franchise, entities and organizations that did the real estate for them, and they walked into a space and a deal was done, and that's a model that works for some. We really partner with our franchisees. We don't call it a corporate office; we call it a support center. We're there to support the success and the growth of our franchisees. So, to the level that our franchisees want our help, whether it's on the front end of a deal, in the middle of a lease negotiation. We're there to help. But we're very active in the strategy and the thought process. And what is special about Dave's is kind of the DNA, as you see, our graphics and our signage
So
and
cool.
our kind of ethos is very fun. It's very out there, a lot of bright colors. Um, and so we're really, cautious about where we go and how we grow, um, and doing it the right way. So we do, work really, uh, we work a lot on the front end with our franchisees to make sure that the thought process of a deal for a deal is not the right way to grow a successful organization in the fast casual world, but being strategic and thoughtful and with a solid decision logic as to why each site makes sense, is really the right way to grow.
I, I like that philosophy. I think one of the last things I'm thinking about, you could look at it two ways. One, a lot of restaurants went out last year, but your space is hot, right? There's so many people who want to be in your space, right? Not necessarily chicken, just fast casual, right? There's everybody, every town has someone around the corner that's got a restaurant that they're going to take to 2,000 locations, right? It's very competitive space, obviously not easy to do. Where do you guys kind of think about the competition, and do you like a lot of, does rising tide raise all boats? Do you like a lot of fast casual in restaurants? Do you want all the food share for yourself? You want to be in a place where there's no other restaurants? How do you guys think about that?
As a new brand, it's a really interesting question, and one that our we're talking a lot about. But as a new brand growing outside of our home market of California, especially, we've got to be in the consumer's normal traffic pattern. You're not going to necessarily um, be able to succeed by going off the mark and by going around the corner or hiding yourself and saying, if we build it, they will come. It's more a process of, being where the customer's already going, where are their daily trips, where are the daily needs, where are the other restaurants, and then how do we go find great real estate, where we can be front and center, big spotlight on us, and then, through our marketing efforts, draw the customer in.
So I'm going to push you a little bit there, because to me, that feels a little bit more about the site selection. As I think about the markets, I talk to some chains that are like, I love this market. It's under restauranted. You, I believe I can open up four and I can keep my competition out. I'm going to take the best real estate in that market, but since it's underpenetrated from a restaurant, that's where I want to be. I don't want to go in that market. and bang heads with every other restaurant brand. How are you guys thinking about that?
There's a different school of thought, of both ways of doing it. I think for us, taking a brand building approach, building, brand equity, especially in new markets as we continue to grow as a young brand. I think going into trade areas where you have, strong retail, where are
Yep.
the influencers, where are the early adopters going to, try things, where are kind of the hip neighborhoods, the hip trade areas. And we think very strategically about our market planning and what trade areas make sense in what order, so that we can be successful in each individual market, because every market operates differently. LA is so different, and there is very, other than New York, you can't really replicate it in terms of density, in terms of uh, some of the traffic patterns and the energy, but you can't replicate New York either. Um, that being said, I can't take Los Angeles and drop it in Cleveland, Ohio, and say, okay, this is like this. So we look at each market differently. We look at each franchise territory differently, and say, okay, what's the best thing for this market as we're going to grow here. So it really is a lot of front end strategy and thought, and collaboration with our franchisees, our brokers in each market, to think about what's the right way to grow, so that we earn the right to grow and continue to grow, as we open more restaurants.
I like that. Earn the right to grow. I'm going to steal that from you.
Okay.
All right. Listen, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I want to bring us to the last part of the show called Retail Wisdom.
Okay.
I've got 3 questions for you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Question 1. What extinct retailer do you wish would come back from the dead?
I miss Dayton's. Dayton's was a department store in Minneapolis. It is the Dayton family is also the founding family of Target. Both started in Minneapolis, but Dayton's was, just a phenomenal department store, great customer service. It just, growing up, it was one of those places that you went to, whether it was in the suburbs or the flagship downtown Minneapolis location. Dayton's was such a phenomenal brand.
Fascinating. I love that answer. Question 2. What's the last item over $20 you bought in a store, not named Dave's Hot Chicken?
And not groceries. It was actually socks at Uniqlo. I stocked up on socks, of all random things.
We all need socks.
Yes,
Have you tried Bombas?
I have tried Bombas. They're great, but for everyday use, Uniqlo has the ones I love.
Perfect. Last question, Dannon.
Okay.
If you and I were shopping, we were shopping at Target, and you're from the Minneapolis area, so you know Target, and I lost you, what aisle would I find you in?
You are going to find me in the snacks, Gatorade, energy drink aisle
Love
for sure.
Gatorade. There was a time I was so obsessed with Gatorade. I love that answer. I was so obsessed with Gatorade. I was cutting weight for wrestling, right, growing up, and I was fascinated by Gatorade. I said my major was going to be food science because I was going to be the person who made the new flavors for Gatorade. That was going to be me.
I miss some of those old flavors, like citrus cooler doesn't exist anymore. That was, in the glass bottle. Michael
Alpine
Jordan
Snow.
used to drink that one. That was the best.
Love that glass bottle.
Yeah.
All right, Dannon. This was fantastic. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks
And
for having me.
yeah, I can't wait to try this brand. And yeah, and I know
Can't wait to have you. I'd love to host you in one of our restaurants, and give you the opportunity to try it fresh.
I'm going to take you up on that.
Wonderful.
All right, Dannon. This was great, man. Thank you so
I
much.
appreciate it. Thanks for the time.
Yeah, man. Thank you. And I think we've got an LOI working, which is pretty cool.
That's what I hear. Working with the team over the last couple days, and a bunch of emails I know I've seen flying around. So, had a great call with with some of your team, on the leasing side to help see where we can bring some Dave's Hot Chicken to the DLC portfolio.
Amazing. Well, listen, Dannon, go have fun with your family, and you have a great weekend.
Thanks. You too. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, Chris. Bye.
Appreciate you watching. Hit subscribe. See you in the next one.